On Oxford University has a new policy demanding staff and students treat each other with respect, courtesy and consideration when communicating online. And a group of Oxford dons are opposed to it. The professors claim that the new rules would stifle free speech and could result in people losing their jobs if someone takes offence, that watchword of the moment, to what they post online. So this begs the question, are universities actually a threat to free speech rather than its custodians? Joining me now is the university student Adam Wildsmith and Steed Bennett. For starters then, Adam, I'll start with you. Have you witnessed a stifling of free speech at your university?
I wouldn't say so much so, but it's completely ridiculous that you could lose your job because you say something or tweet something that this narrow-minded minority disagree with. The whole point of freedom of speech is that in order to speak freely, you have to risk offending. And this idea that this minority, their right not to be offended, trumps everybody else's right to speak freely is completely ridiculous. I remember Newcastle University's student newspaper, they had a whole front page on the whole Rod Little scandal at Durham University, where he was hounded out because the students there decided that they didn't want to hear what he had to say because they'd already decided that he was guilty by the High Court of Wokeness. So he was hounded out. They contacted The Spectator, they contacted the Sunday Times, demanding his dismissal from those publications. And I have to say, if someone like Rod Little's good enough for the Sunday Times, then he's good enough for a bunch of overprivileged idiots at Durham University.
Yes. So, Steed, then, coming to you, would you agree with that? Would you actually say that, and this, I think it's symptomatic of a generation, I was just discussing this with Miriam Cates MP, where we're wrapping students, we're wrapping young people in cotton wool, and we're saying to them, you must be protected. Do you think that President Xi of China is doing that to the next generation? This is just ridiculous, isn't it? This is just wrapping people up, trying to protect them from what I would call the real world. Sometimes people say things you disagree with. That's called life.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with everything that was just said. It's what I think we have to be, and I think this is what I think Oxford University has slightly made a bit of a mistake here with, is the idea of respect in university and outside university. You know, we're all humans, we all have lives, and we all have very differing opinions. And the issue is the word respect is subjective. To some people, I'd say you could say many things about Brexit and they'd find that disrespectful. So suddenly we're going to start firing people for their views on Brexit, or we're going to start firing people's views on transgenderism, because loads of people could find that disrespectful. So it's really about understanding, you know, so respect is a very subjective thing, and we've got to understand people outside a classroom need to have, you know, it's freedom of speech. We are allowed to say whatever we want to say. And, you know, if we start stifling that just because of the job, you can't, you know, you're restricting people's lives here. Like, you know, I can't go on Twitter and say a conservative viewpoint just because I have a job somewhere. It's borderline ridiculous.
Adam, very quick last word to you. Do you think that universities are bastions of free speech, or do you think they're now just wrapping people up in cotton wool and actually taping over the mouths of people as well?
Yeah, I think too often at the moment, universities are focusing more on protecting people from being offended by speech than they are about protecting free speech itself.
Perfect way to end that. That was the university students Adam Wildsmith and Steed Bennett before.